Meeting is being live streamed, and let's get some recording going. All right, let's get some energy in here. How's everybody doing?
Excellent.
Good. That was the overwhelming energy I was looking for. Thank you. Pull it back a little bit. All right, how's everybody doing? What's up? Devon, how are you?
Great. I literally just hopped off the phone 2 minutes before the call started. Finally connected with a new business owner after reaching out to over 30 different people to take some leads for up in the wonderful city of Newark, New Jersey. Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful. Beautiful place.
We've all got different opinions about a lot of things, so I will respect yours.
It's very diplomatic.
Yeah, no, it's been great, man. It seems like everyone got a haircut this week. Seen a lot of people post about wins. I know you got one, Neil got one. I'm missing out. I've got this thing here I've got to figure out about, but
I learned a lesson. Don't take the $6 coupon for a haircut. It doesn't always work out well.
Is that
I got a barber, old school.
What's that?
I got an old school barber.
I know I need one of those, but it's hard when you're traveling, right? So that's all right. It always grows back. Well, so far. What about Mr. Laurent? Bonjour. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. Grinding, heads down, keeping busy.
Keeping busy. Yeah, very cool. All right, who's got some wins? You got any wins?
I posted about it. It was last Thursday. I got someone
$1 a day late and $1 short or something.
A day late, but not $1 short because I onboarded him today.
12,000. Yeah, $12,000 not short, right?
Correct. Yeah, and he's a tremendous human being, so I'm incredibly excited to work with him.
Give us a little rundown on what happened there.
Yes, so a couple months ago, it was just almost to the day, 2 months ago, I had a junk removal owner out in North Carolina follow up with me, and he was asking about my services, right? He was just shopping around, and so I made him a screencast and just told him about like where his GMB's at and things like that, and he specifically mentioned that the reason why he followed up with me 2 months later, so last week, was that he took some advice that I had actually given him. I had once heard this advice from someone who's now a defunct poker player that bums around in his RV around the country. And that was about and that was about GMB antennas and using that analogy. And so I told him, you need to move your GMB to get business. And he said, I was the only person that mentioned that to him. And he did it. And just from that, his calls more than doubled. So he got a lot of value, and so he came back and he wants to grow more.
That's cool. That's super cool. I think those analogies and stories, I use those a lot on these calls, and I use those a lot when I was doing sales. I think it's always best to tell a story, and that's something people can follow, right? If you're in sales and you can kind of like make an analogy or something, you got to take something that's kind of complicated to understand, especially for business owners, right? Of like lead gen in this, and put it into something that makes sense to them. So that's where the antenna analogy came for us. And it just makes a lot of sense to people because everybody understands what an antenna is, but they don't understand like, if I put a Google My Business here, it's going to rank like that, just like starts sounding like Chinese to them. So that's good. And that's the type of stuff people remember as Devon saw right there, right? Like this guy who was thinking about this analogy months later, and it ends up being a monthly client for you. So congrats, man. That's awesome. Super cool to hear that. I think there's somebody else on the call with a win. I don't know if he wants to share it. Mr. Lou.
Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah, I was so excited. I had to send you that voicemail, man. But yeah, so first 4-digit like flat fee that I've had this concrete site that like is just killed me, like 6 months of tons of leads, trials, no, and finally found a guy on Craigslist and just worked. So I sent him leads for about 3 weeks. we met up today, and he basically closed himself, man. But like I said, that line you mentioned about, like, you know, your competitors are now my competitors, and you know, the goal is to double your business in the next 3 years. You know, he was like fired up, man. So, and I think another thing, like Neil's been mentioning, you know, this is another younger guy, you know, like kind of just 3 years into the business on his own. So, you know, I think it's good to have that FBI profile of like who you want to talk to, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you guys will notice that a lot of the business owners they're competitive people. A lot, not all of them, but a lot of them are. And if you kind of pick up on that vibe, then that's the language that you want to speak. And if for whatever reason you think like, maybe it's like a little old lady who's running her concrete company, right? So maybe don't use that analogy with her, but you need to read the situation and adjust. And I've noticed that more times than not, the business owners they're going to have a competitive nature about them. They've stepped away from their job. They said, look, I don't feel like I'm getting paid enough. I'm going to turn this into something big, right? And the E-Myth, they say the entrepreneurial seizure takes them where they're like tired of dealing with nonsense, and they want to go after it, right? So that competitive speak is really going to elicit an emotion. And you know, if you guys watched the live from last week, some of the language that we're using in the heat map prospecting is really designed to kind of like key in on that, like point out the fact that their competitors are beating them. And, you know, for a lot of people, like a lot of people are motivated by one of two things, either like a fear of missing out, or like a fear motivation, or they're driven towards pleasure. So, you know, if you can kind of mix both of those in a little bit. So here's an example with the heat map, right? I was kind of thinking about this after the call last week, and I didn't really illustrate it as well as I wanted to. So you're talking about like, hey, this is what the person in the top of the market is doing here. And this is what, like, a really good example is like, let's say you've got two cities and one of them you own a site and it's working really well. And you say like, hey, here's all the calls that are coming in for this city. It's about like this city that you're in. And here is someone who's raking equally to you. Here's a competitor that's in your city. These are the calls that they're probably getting. How much is that costing you on a monthly basis to miss out on these calls? How long can that go on for? What does this look like 6 months, 9 months, 2 years from now, if they continue to get all this business and you don't? Like, kind of turning the screws on them a little bit. It's psychology, right? So we need to show them what they're missing. And the opposite of that example is like, well, what does it look like to drive them towards pleasure, right? So, hey, what do you want to do with your business? Like, Jeff, maybe we could do like a quick little role play here. Jeff,
Sure.
Why is it important for you to grow your business?
Well, I need to make more money so I can go on vacation and buy more equipment and expand a little bit.
Okay. So your idea of buying this more equipment and expanding, why is that necessary? Why is it necessary for you to expand?
Well, I just want to have a bigger business and a better lifestyle.
So with this bigger business, that's going to change the way that you can live and the things that you do. So that's kind of the driving force of why you want to grow this business.
Yeah, that's right. I think I can be a lot more. I can make a lot more income because as I learn to run the business better, I can be more profitable, and then I can have more take-home income.
Right. So more take-home income, and you said that you want to go on vacations, right?
That's right.
Is that kind of how you picture this? Of like, you build this, there's going to be a lot more business. Is your idea that you're going to be spending the same amount of time, more time, or are you planning with this extra business to try to kind of put somebody in that place so that you could spend more of this time on these vacations? What does this look like for you a couple of years from now?
Yeah, ideally, I'd like to train up one of my foremen to be more of an overarching manager, a project manager, so that he can manage a lot of the projects for me, and then I can just run the day-to-day business from behind the scenes, not necessarily behind the scenes, but more at that higher level. instead of, running around doing estimates and all of that. Whereas right now we're kind of doing, both of us are doing that same role.
Right. So, when was the last time? Hang on one second.
Got it.
I got it. So when was the last time you went on one of these vacations?
Oh man. Well, I started my business 3 years ago. I haven't been on vacation since. I mean, this is kind of like a goal of mine, to get all my ducks in a row and be making enough money to where I can, and have the right people in place where I can step back a little bit and do that. I have 2 kids, and I want them to be able to go on vacation with me and kind of see, what the world is like a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're at this part of the conversation, and now I've kind of got a picture of where Jeff wants to go with his business. So my next step is I want Jeff to really paint that picture. Let's connect emotionally to what that looks like. So just going on vacation, that's not enough, right? Just saying that for those of you guys that are this is some like real stuff that we use that's been very successful for us in sales. I'm going to try to get Jeff to paint the picture a little bit of what the pleasure looks like. So we talked about what the pain looks like. Let's talk about what the pleasure looks like. I think getting some guys are going to be, like some of these rough contractors, you might not be able to like dig as deep as easily with these guys. You're going to kind of have this really hard outer shell. But if you can kind of approach it casually and kind of cool where you're not formal about it, then your ability to break down their defenses, it's just so much easier. So you guys have heard, maybe most of you guys have probably heard some of our like sales type role plays in the past, and you can see that I usually keep it pretty casual. It's like I'm talking to a guy in the bar, right? Where it's not like I'm on my end, like I'm not really worried if I don't make the sale, because like there's always the next bus, right? And that helps it kind of take some of the edge off, where I don't have to be so formal, and I can just be like cool with the person and try and understand them. Okay, so let's go back into it, Jeff. Yeah. So it's been 3 years since you've taken a vacation, and you said you've kind of built this business to take a vacation. I understand, like when you're in startup mode, it can be really tough to find the time. But let's say we get things dialed in, and the business gets to where you want to be. Where are these vacations going to happen? What's the plan? You've got a couple kids. Are you guys headed to Disneyland? What's the plan?
Oh no, man, that Disneyland's for the birds. We're going fly fishing up in Montana. I always see my buddies on Instagram. They're running around on 4-wheelers and fly fishing and all of that. I want my kids to kind of drop into nature and get a sense of what that's all about.
Yeah, that sounds super cool, man. I'll tell you some of those experiences I had with my dad when I was growing up. Those are irreplaceable. There was a time period for the first part of my life where my dad was gone a lot, and then he kind of made the decision to spend a lot of time with us. And I still remember him taking me to baseball games when I was 10, 12, 13 years old. So it's always great to grow a business and get stability, but what's the point of it if you can't use it to create these type of memories with your kids, right?
That's right, man. So you're saying you went fly fishing with your dad?
I didn't do the fly fishing, but we had our own thing, so like baseball games, and we like the Disneyland thing. So yeah. But
I'm not a fan of Disney, but fly fishing, the baseball games sound cool too.
Yeah, right on. So now we've actually got him talking about what he wants to do, right? So we can circle back to this later on. We don't want to get too far away, but we just want to understand this and have kind of like an image. We don't want to like go like, hey, what type of bait are you going to, all this like nonsense and stuff that's not related to this, to where we're trying to go, right? We want to stay focused, but we want to have an understanding where the vision is. Okay. So Jeff, let me ask you, to be able to have this time fly fishing with your kids and going on this vacation, what do you think you have to have in place for your business?
Well, like I was saying, I have to have that foreman trained up and, doing enough of the work for me that I can step away and maybe just handle some of the bigger issues over the phone and not have to be right here in my business all the time like that. and
Right.
make more income. You know, I'm not making enough profit. I think I'm paying way too much for materials, and I'm paying my guys too much. I have people who are I'm paying and they're not producing, you know, stuff like that. So I got to get my ducks in a row first.
Yeah, I think you know, as we go through this business, that's something that we all have to go through and it's a learning process, no matter how much we try to like ask questions from other people who are ahead of us. It's like sometimes you just got to take some of those knocks on your own. But Jeff, like, do you already have a foreman, or you?
Yeah, I have him in place already. He's running around. He's learning the business. I mean, he knows a lot, but he doesn't know enough to, you know, for me to feel comfortable just kind of handing him the keys to the business and walking away for a few weeks. You know, I don't trust him that much.
So a lot of this is just about him kind of getting some reps in and getting some training at the point where you're going to feel confident with him to do.
Right. And the only way I'm going to feel confident, I think, is if I'm forced to. So if I have so much business that, you know, I can afford to make some mistakes. Right now, I can't really afford to make any mistakes because I only get a certain amount of opportunities. So I have to make sure that I close as high at a high of a ratio as I can. If I had more opportunities, I could kind of, you know, shuffle some of those off to this foreman. And then if he loses a few of them, okay, he's going to lose a few of them along the way, but at least we're getting somewhere, you know?
Right. Absolutely. And are you guys at capacity now, or do you have, you guys, like, what percentage of work?
I think we're probably like 70%. You know, we could definitely handle some more work, but as he gets better, he gets more skilled, then, you know, that capacity could grow along with him also. And then we have other people who train up under him, so he can push off some of his responsibilities along the way and just continue to grow like that. That's my plan.
Right.
I mean, that's what the vision that I always had for the company when I started it. Right.
Okay, guys, at this point, I'm going to just do like a slight takeaway with Jeff. He says he's at 70%, and I just want to kind of do a little bit of positioning when I get to this time in the conversation a lot, where I'm going to try to make Jeff sell to me a little bit on why he's the right person. So I want you guys to kind of like just pay attention to this part and think about this when you get in the situation. Okay, so you guys are at 70%. You know, we have companies, you know, all over the United States, and we've been doing this for a long time. And Jeff, I'll tell you, when we get into these conversations, it's always kind of like this two-way thing where we're feeling stuff out. And on our end, you know, I already know there's not a lot of people who can do what we can do. There's certainly a lot of people that say they can do what we can do, but we've delivered business. And when you get high quality leads coming in, a lot of times people can get buried. And we try to avoid going into business with people that we're concerned about that. You guys are at 70%.
That's right.
Do you guys think you'd be able to handle this if we were able to bring a lot more business in? Because, you know, it can sound great to get numbers coming in, but if you can't handle this, then it's not going to be profitable for you, and it could be pretty frustrating.
Right, man. Well, I don't know. I mean, the leads you guys have been sending me the last week or two have been really good compared to what I usually get. So, you know, taking on some more of those jobs, again, I think as long as I can get this foreman trained up and get him to take on more responsibility for me, then it's a no-brainer. I mean, this, like I say, I've got it set up in a way where everybody's kind of being trained up from the bottom. And I know it never works out the way you think it's going to, but you know, I think we definitely can handle more business, and hopefully that capacity is going to grow over time. So that's my goal.
Do you have a good way to hire people? If you know, like let's say we get the foreman trained up and we got you know, what if you have twice as much work coming in, right? And the foreman can't handle it all. Do you have a game plan in place of like where you're going to find additional people to work for you?
Oh man, that's a good question. It's really hard to find good people, you know. I mean, usually it just comes from the network of beer drinking buddies, you know. All these guys that work for me, they're all out drinking beer every night, and they just find friends that want to come on board. And you know, a lot of them don't work out, honestly, but every once in a while you find that one that really wants to work, and we train them up and get them in the system. And you know, I have like 12 guys right now, so that's what I have to work with. And you know, that's how that's how I've gotten the guys that I have right now.
Yeah, well, Jeff, the good news is this isn't a light switch that we flip overnight. This is something that kind of ramps up over time, but we've seen it time and time again where people have been in business for a while and then it can get really stressful. And I just want to make sure that we set the expectations on both sides. You're going to have certain expectations on us to deliver, and we're going to have expectations on you to make sure that you're able to handle the business. And, you know, it is a requirement on our end that you take care of these customers. And, you know, we don't work with people where the customers are unsatisfied. Just like you're not going to want to have somebody on your crew who doesn't show up on time or does poor work. So we've positioned ourselves as a leader in this industry, and we look for the other leaders in town to partner up with. So, you know, from what I've heard, it sounds like we're on the same page. But I just wanted to make sure that we are, and you know, sometimes it's just better to get it out there and say it rather than, you know, expecting it and then finding out a few months later that like, hey, this isn't what I thought it was going to be.
Right. Yeah. Well, like I say, I'm definitely motivated. I think it's been stressful to get the company to where it is right now, and we have the capacity to grow. So we're definitely looking for more business. And you know, I'm not perfect. I see these other guys around town, some of the bigger names, and those are the people I aspire to be. That's how I aspire to grow my company. I'm not the top guy in town, but I have integrity. I take care of my clients, and you know, I'm motivated to grow, and I have a vision for what I want to create.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, Jeff, like times have changed in the last like 20 or 30 years. The person who's the top guy in town is often the person that has like the most visibility or the best marketing. They're not necessarily the people that do the best work. And maybe the top guy in town got to where he is by doing great work. But, you know, what we've seen, and there's been a top guy in all the towns that we move around. And I'll tell you what, it's these top guys, when we do what we do, these guys we're just more than they can handle. And it's unfair when we kind of put our resources towards this, and we just keep on pounding on it until we get what we want. So the guy who's the top guy in town, that's temporary. We start working together. We're coming after that guy. We're going to be the top guy in town. That's what we do. So we're more expensive than other people, you know, just like Honda Civics are not as expensive as Ferraris. We're the Ferrari. So we come in there and we're going to be moving towards that top position. And, you know, we've even seen it in other towns where, you know, the company that we're working with, so here's a point for a story. This is a true story that I like to put in here. So, you know, we're working with a company out in Las Vegas. They were in business for 22 years and they had two crews. And over the last year and a half, they've gone from 2 crews to 11 crews. And a lot of the crews that they've absorbed are the crews of the former top guy in town, right? So, you know, this is why we demand the prices that we do. And like I said, it's not for everybody. We're designed for companies that want to grow big. You know, we want to come in and take over the town. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, then I would love to find a way to work together. And if not, I totally understand it. It's no hard feelings. What we do is certainly not for everyone.
Right. Well, like I say, I appreciate what you've sent over so far, and I think it's good stuff. So I don't know what kind of dollars you're talking about. I don't know much about Ferraris, but I like those twin cab dually, you know, but yeah. You get me up in that category, I'd be happy to work with you. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So you guys want to make sure as we move in for the close, you guys want to make sure that you don't want to come, like, I don't know, like, obviously this isn't a real niche. We don't know what the value of what we sent over is, but let's pretend it's $2,000 a month. Okay. So when I go in for the close, I want to lay out my case, right? So I'm going to know how much my leads are worth. I want to know like the average cost of the job. I want to have like a decent idea of what the what conversion rate can be. So let's say that the leads are worth like $100 each, and there's 20 of them that have come in the last month. So I would say something like, hey, Jeff, you know, we've done this all over the country. I know that these leads are worth about $100 a piece. And, you know, it looks like we're averaging 20 a month.
So what I want to do is I want to start it out at $2,000 a month. Since today is like, so if today's the 10th, then, or let's say today's the 15th. So we always prorate everything. So everything starts on the first of the month. So it's going to be $1,000 from today, the 15th, until the end of the month. And then you'll be billed on the first of the month each month. Okay. We don't do contracts. So you can quit anytime. We just rely on our value of delivering to, you can cancel anytime. So I kind of personally believe when they hear that, it really disarms them a lot. There's a lot of benefits to having contracts in place. But I think if honestly, like push comes to shove, Jeff, you're an attorney, maybe you've got an opinion on this. Push comes to shove, like if the person doesn't have the money or they don't want to pay, they're probably not going to just pay because of the contract. They're probably just going to like stop paying, right? So I don't know that it even matters so much, but maybe there's some like intrinsic value to your company. Jeff, what are your thoughts on that? I know this isn't legal advice, but like just from
that's my line. It's not legal advice, but yeah, I mean, if you're talking about a couple $1,000 a month contract, I mean, what are you going to do? Take them to small claims court? Do you have time for that? Probably not. Do they? Who cares? You get a judgment, you got to chase them down. Not worth it, in my opinion. My personal.
So, from a closing perspective, just letting them know that your value just depends on delivering it. And if you're kind of in the situation that we've described here, where Jeff has already been getting the leads, the property is already delivering, and like the risk of it stopping to deliver is pretty low if you've gotten to that point, right? So
yeah, in my experience, and I've closed, dozens of people now off of this model and saying that exact line. Like I harp on the fact that we don't do contracts because I think a lot of them, especially the ones that have been burned by Home Advisor or some other, whatever company, lead generation company, that they've gotten stuck in a contract. I mean, they really appreciate that. It's like that's a huge value to them. It's like, no, I'm not going to come after you and ding your credit or whatever. Take you to small claim. Like I'm not doing that. It's like you want the leads, you pay me. If you don't, then c'est la vie.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really important when you deliver the price that it's going to be, that you're not like having this like pre-puberty moment where you trip over that word and it's like, dude, it's going to be $2,000. Like don't like. You don't want to come across like that, right? Like this should just be in alignment in your expectation. Like if you're selling your car and you know that your car is worth $10,000, you shouldn't be hiccuping over the money. If it's like, I'm not willing to sell this car for less than $10,000. When you say that in that situation, you say it with a lot of confidence, but because this is like kind of this abstract number where who knows what the real value is, I think we have this thought in our head that like maybe this is, or maybe you're not used to playing with bigger numbers. Like maybe Lou, for instance, here, who closed his first person at $1,000 or more. That was probably a hard number for him to say the first time he said it. Is that the case, Lou? Or were you, like, I don't know where you were, but I know that's how it was for me. And then I got more comfortable.
I still get cringy about it. We're about to close that one up, in the Midwest, Patrick, that we've been sending leads to for a few weeks. I have a call with them and it's still like, because I don't know where they're at. If I know I'm just bombarding them, they're closing out the wazoo, I can hear that on the calls, then I have a lot more confidence going in with a bigger number. But if it's something like this, where I have no clue because of the way their system runs, it's more of a distributor deal. I don't know what they're closing. I don't know what the value is because it could be a product, or they could be the full installation of that product. So I have no idea. I'm just going to say a number or I'm going to try to feel them out a little bit first and see what that number might be. But I'm, walking into it and thinking through it in my mind before I get on that call. It's still just a little bit like, wow, like even if I say $1,000, like they might laugh at me because of just the way this deal is set up. And it is what it is, I mean, I'm going to try to get as much money out of it as I can, but I have to be thinking about the full, bigger picture of the way the deal's structured, who these people are. If we get them, it could be a good long-term deal. So I don't want to cut myself out by overpricing or sticking to a number that doesn't make sense. And then I've got nothing, So yeah. There's a whole lot of different variables that, intuitively go into pricing and saying the number,
Yeah. To some extent, though, there's a number that's going to work for us, and there's a number that's not going to work for us, right? So
Sure.
you're only really whatever like the difference is there. So let's say we're trying to get this person to sign up for $1,000, but we're like at $400 a month, we're not going to do the deal. So really, we're like talking about like a $600 a month difference. And if you kind of think of it in that terms rather than it just being 1,000, because like we could probably sell it to $400 a month to a bunch of other people.
That's right.
So like that takes a little bit of the pressure off. My point is though, when you go to deliver the price, I want you guys to deliver it like
With confidence.
and
Conviction.
smooth and conviction and don't, you know, and don't, you don't have to be the next person to talk. If I mean, I spend like, if I'm saying, hey, the price is going to be $1,000 a month. Like,
Yeah, definitely bite your tongue after you say that.
you don't want to be like, well, what do you think of that? Like, does that sound
We're
good?
qualifying it, but it's $1,000 a month, but you know, like, don't just it's best just to be quiet. You see what
I mean, you could leave it like, look, like I said, we've done this all over and I know what it's worth. And I'm really not willing to take less than $1,000 a month. Does that sound like something that would work for you? So you've put it on them, and you've also let them know that you've kind of drawn a hard line. And, you know, if they have a problem with it, then like I closed a guy yesterday. I didn't even tell you this, Jeff. I closed a guy yesterday that has been kind of giving us problems with the whole dust-free situation thing. So
okay, good.
So that thing's over for like, we've got him locked in now, but he hiccuped at our price. And then I was like, okay, well, let's do this. We're heading into the slow time of year. So I'll tell you what, until February, we'll lock it in at this price. And at that point, we'll reevaluate it with the idea that we're moving it to this price here, because I can look at what came in the spring and I know that it's worth that. And that will give you some time to prep and get adjusted for it. Right. So you're kind of like meeting them in the middle to some extent. Right. Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions on this stuff? Comments?
Yeah, Pat, I just wanted to say, like, for me, I think your approach obviously is great. Like, what helped me a little bit in feeling confident throwing that number out was I used that lead calculator thing, and like this guy was cool because he told me, you know, what his average job is. I had a lot of info, you know, how often what's his closing rate, you know, just like a few pieces of info so I could throw it in that calculator. So I knew, you know, it was between 1,000 and 1,500. And for me, you know, the guy hadn't closed any business yet. So I was like, I actually don't want you to pay me. And he was like, no, dude, I want to pay you. So I was like, all right, let's start with 1,000. Cause I don't know, kind of like you said, like concrete could die off in 2 months. And you know, I don't want to be like, hey man, you know, so I felt good about it. And I think he did too. So it was a win.
Yeah, that's awesome. A good point. Like find a sweet spot where you both feel good about it. And that's not always going to happen, but if you can do it, then, you know, everybody sleeps easier for sure. You know?
Yeah. And to me, I can always go up if, you know, 3 months from now, he's crushing it. And, you know, he seems like the type of person where he's like, all right, the win-win. Like, that's the thing is I try to attract people that buy into win-win so that he understands like, hey man, you do well, I do well. That's pretty simple.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we've talked about that before, like anchoring them to the fact that as we grow together.
Right.
Good job.
All right. Yeah, Lou, that's awesome, man. I know that you've kind of been in there kind of grinding for a while, and it's that first one you get, it's such a big deal. And it's like the first one is off, like just like anything, money has a law of diminishing returns, right? Like when you go from like $0 to $1,000 in income, it's a lot different than when you go from like $60,000 to $61,000 in income, right? But that first one, it proves that this works. And I know, you know, I started this business model, and it took me like 2 years before I got to like around like $4,000 a month. And it wasn't because I couldn't have done it faster, but I was like going down this rabbit hole and then this other one and then all this other stuff. And I had to make a lot of mistakes. And then it just kind of clicked in my head, you know, I was at an event and I'd gone from, it took me 2 years to get to 4,000. It took me another 2 months to get to 8,000. And then I was at this event and I was looking around at these people that were doing big numbers, you know, 25, 40, $50,000. And I was like, what do these guys have that I don't have? And it just like, they just kind of narrowed their focus and really zoned in on it. And I've told the story before. I couldn't wait. I was having a great time. I was having drinks by the pool and enjoying people with some really cool people, but I could not wait to get out of there because I was like, I want to go and change my life yesterday. So over the next 12 months, we went from 8,000 to 40,000 a month, right? And it took 2 years and a couple of months before I made the decision that I was going to stop getting distracted with this other stuff and just focus. So now, Lou, you're in that spot. You've gotten to 1,000, which means you can get to 2,000. That's how my math worked, right? I was like, I got to 4,000. There's no reason I can't get to 8,000. If I can get to 8, I can get to 16, right? And like, I can just keep on redoing the same stuff that works and stop trying to look for like the sexy stuff that is unnecessary, right? Like, you don't see like Tiger Woods go make the putt and then he does like a triple backflip. He just makes the putt, right? But we spend this time trying to do the stuff that wasn't necessary for us to get it to work, right? Like, we can learn all these tactics to try to rank better and all this other stuff. But if we just chose like easier niches, then we probably wouldn't need any of that, right? Like, it's great to be able to rank faster, but if I would be willing to bet that, you know, like if you were to take the time of trying to like level up and like get from like 90 to 91% amazing at this stuff, instead of like just spending that extra time finding like the weakest niche, the weakest city and stuff. You know, I'm training this guy Paul every week, and he went and he found some niches on our weekly call. Every Sunday I meet with him. So he went and found some niches, and they were decent niches. They were good. I would feel confident that I could go in and really crush it in those niches. But I'm also like, there's easier ones out here. And for your first run, let's just go find the easier ones, right? So spending that extra time on due diligence means that we don't have to be as good, right? Like, you know, if I'm playing, like, if I'm like a basketball player and I'm 6'2", right? So I can go and I find somebody that's like 5'9", like I've got a pretty good advantage, but I could also probably find someone that's 5'2" if I just spend a little bit more time, right? Or I could find a third grader who, like, it's going to be hard to find a third grader who can beat me in basketball, I think, right? So go and find that person and spend less time like putting like all these like amazing touches on the stuff, especially when you're getting started, right? At the beginning, this is all about getting yourself to a number. And if you guys don't have defined what that number is, then there's a really good chance you're not going to get there. And if you don't have a date when you're going to get there, then like, it's probably going to take a lot longer than if you did, right? So today is what, September 1st? So we have 3 months left in the year, 3 months, and then it's 2022. There's a lot that can be done in 3 months. And if you guys, I'm sorry, 4 months, Devon, right? We got September, November, September, October, November, December, right? We got 4 months. Okay. So you got, yeah. So you got even more, right? There's a lot that can be done. You could go, you may not be able to go from 0 to 10,000 where you have kind of like $10,000 in passive income because you've got all these sites ranking. Maybe you can, I'm not sure. I don't know what your experience is up to this point. I would say if I started over, I could create $10,000 of recurring income in the next 4 months, but that's with an awesome skill set that I've learned over the past 5 or 6 years, right? So for those of you guys that are newer in this, you can get yourself into the position 4 months from now where you've built enough and you've got enough things in place for that $10,000 a month to start coming in, right? You're going to have to do the work, and it's going to have to mean like, don't go down this bunny trail for a little while and this bunny trail. Just stick with the basics, right? Find your niches, build some sites. If you don't have 10 sites, how do we get 10 sites in easy niches? How do we get the GMBs? You go through and look at what Jeff has set up. Let's just, like, for those of you guys, we get a lot of questions in the group where a lot of the answers are in the sheet, right? So if you guys haven't seen this, I'm going to share my screen real quick. And let me go here.
Yeah, just real quick, I'll definitely second what Patrick just said about, making mistakes early. Like and going for easier niches. Like I went for it was a different situation because I was a partner in a contracting company where I started all my lead gen stuff, but I went for really hyper competitive, niches and didn't know any better. And, everything happens for a reason. And I went into sales and all of this other stuff, but had I gone into like easier niches, I would have made a lot more money in the early days. I learned a lot along the way, so it's great. Dave Stowers put in a chat that, sometimes it's hard to ask people for a big number when you don't have that same number in your own bank account. And I agree. I think that's a really good way to frame it. But at some point we have to push the boundaries of our comfort zone and start saying those bigger numbers. And for me, that was reps, just get it on the phone and just knowing, like Patrick said, there's another bus right behind them. If it's not you, it'll be the next one or the next one or the next one. And just keep building out like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I can really empathize with what you're saying there, Dave. And what is in your bank account? Like if you were to kind of zoom out a little bit and say, what is going on here? We have this, which is like worth this much money to the person, assuming that they have this skill set, right? And if that's the case, then like what's in my bank account or what type of shoes I have on or whatever, that it doesn't matter. And it's hard for you to kind of get into that mindset, but sometimes it's best to try to like be an actor with this, right? If this doesn't have to be who you are permanently, where you're like, I'm Dave Stowers, I'm always asking for these big numbers. But what if you were just like playing a role for a little while, right? What if you're just like, hey, I'm playing the role of this person who has this is just like an experiment. I'm playing this role of this person who has this site that's worth a lot of money. I know how much it's worth to this person. Let me just like play this role. And Dave Stowers is a confident person who is certain of the value he's bringing. Like describe the character of the person that you're going to play for this conversation. And just like, maybe that can play a game with it. Like I'm always saying, hack your brain, right? I love I've mentioned this and I know some of you guys, this is a repeat, but I think it is exceptional mindset. Let me just unshare the screen for a second here. So Michael Jordan, The Last Dance, I think it's still on Netflix. There was a series where he had a bad game against a rookie. I think it was like in the playoffs or something. And, he's walking off the court and the rookie like says something to him. And then the next day he comes back and like, he just like annihilates the rookie. The guy can't even touch the ball. He like stole the ball from him like 4 times, blocked his shots. The guy had in the first game, the rookie had beat Michael Jordan in all these different categories, rebounds, points, like whatever, assists. And in the second game, the rookie was like 0, 0, 0, 0. He had nothing. And they asked Jordan after the game, what happened here? Like the first game, like this guy had a really good game. Second, well, I was walking off the court with him and he said, "Nice game, Mike." And he kind of shoved it in my face. And I felt like he was calling me out. And then they go and they interview the rookie and the rookie's like, I didn't say that. I didn't say anything to him. And then, 20 years later, there's just like this little controversy there for a little while. 20 years later, they asked Jordan, they're like, did that rookie really say that? And he's like, no, he never said anything. But Jordan put that in his head of what it needed to be. And he became that character, right? He knew what his trigger was, and he just pretended that had happened. And then he went and he just played lights out versus this guy. This is the mindset tricks that champions do. And you have to look inside and understand where your triggers are. And you have to be able to like press those for yourself. If it means that, look, I wake up and I'm pissed off or I'm upset, but I know when I go and exercise that it kind of like levels me out and I'm happy and then I can focus. Then like, as much as I don't want to go exercise, I'm going to exercise because I know that that's going to get me to where I need to be. So you guys, this is going to be harder than others, but this is part of what we said earlier. You're going to have to change who you are. If you want to become this like successful person, if you want to become a millionaire and you're not, and you're broke right now, you're going to have to make changes in who you are to become that person. And that means that you're going to have to find ways to be more productive in these situations where you're not, right? When you just be self-aware and say, hey, this is where I'm at mentally. What do I need to do to get to this spot? I know that it's not going to be fun. Funny story in college, I went out and I met this girl and we agreed to go out on a date the next night, and I ended up having too many drinks that night, and I was hungover, and I went, and I used to get really bad hangovers, and I was like, okay, it looks like exercise is what is necessary to really boost your metabolism and get through this. So I went out and jogged at like 2 a.m. and I felt better the next day. I did what I had to do to be ready for that date because that was and that is a mindset that I've always operated on, right? So you guys have to do the same thing, right? You have to make that decision to get to this next place when it's necessary and be self-aware enough to make that decision. So back to where we were, let me share my screen real quick. Jeff, just give me a thumbs up if you, or say the video just disappeared when I shared that. Can you see my screen, Jeff? You see Facebook?
Yeah, I can see it now.
Okay. All right, so you guys,
look, I see a whole bunch of different stuff.
I don't know why it does that. All right.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay.
There we
So,
go.
all right. So for those of you guys that don't know, our Facebook group here, right, in the announcement section, there is Jeff's post. Jeff, it would be really cool if you could edit this post and just make this link be above that, where it's like put it maybe up the top so that you don't always have to click on see more to be able to get it. But this post right here, guys, is going to give you a lot of direction. So what Jeff is kind enough to do every week is he goes through and he kind of details the minutes on the call and what the topics are. So you've got all sorts of different stuff. And if you guys are on a PC and you press Control F, or if you're on a Mac and you press Command F, and you can do a search on this. And, if I wanted to search for like GMB, then I could go through and I can see that it's mentioned 97 times on here. And then I can just kind of like hop to the different ones to find out what I'm looking for. So a lot of your guys' questions can be found in here. I don't mind going back over the stuff, but obviously we can only cover so much on a call. And, like we've gone through 9 months of calls now where a lot of the stuff has been mentioned in some regard. So Jeff, like you were mentioning like frequencies of like review posting and GMB posting and reviews. So that stuff is in here. We had a video best practices. So I know that was a question that came up. So if that's something you're in, there it is right there. So GMB best practices, right? So starting at minute 38, and that was on August 11th. So if you kind of scroll through the group, you'll see that, right? So, okay, cool. So we've covered a lot of stuff here, and I haven't paid attention to the questions at all. Jeff, do we have questions that are lurking?
We don't have any specific questions other than one person was asking about like a lower price niche, like say home cleaning, where how would you explain that? They kind of answered their own question, I think, where it's a recurring customer and how would you explain the value? I would explain it exactly like they said in the question, right? It's like the value is it's a recurring client. So that's going to give you a lot of, income over time. So I don't know how to really price a lead like that because I just haven't dealt with home cleaning, but that was kind of the question that I saw. And then there were a couple of other people who shared wins, like Lisa shared, has small wins, a couple of GMBs verified, got around to ordering a desktop monitor. Wow, okay, that's a win. And then getting on Upwork interview Skype call and have a trial run lead gen client. It was great. So that was Raphael that asked the questions about the home cleaning.
Yeah, so I mean it's tough, and it's really hard for me to answer this question without telling you what I really think. And the first thing whenever someone says a niche like home cleaning is like, okay, let's sell the leads for this niche, but don't pick that niche again, because those leads are just not going to be worth as, and like it's going to be more competitive because it's easy to start a home cleaning business. The leads are not going to be worth as much because the value of the ticket is like, I don't know, $200, $150 for a cleaning, right? So how does that compare to like, installing a pool where it's $60,000, right? That the person is going to be able to pay a lot more. The business owner is going to be a lot more sophisticated, usually, if they're running like a pool building company versus like a home cleaning, because of what they've had to go through to be able to own that company versus what they've had to go through to be able to own a house cleaning company, right? So there's equipment, there's licenses, there's there's all kinds of stuff. So that being said, I always look at the home advisor pricing sheet. One thing you could do is you could call the cleaning companies up, understand what the ticket price is, understand where their margin is, what are they paying these people. So like, I know that we've paid people to come to our house for years to clean, and it's like $150 for these two ladies that will spend like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 hours over there cleaning. So, and they run it themselves, right? It's not like a part of like some big cleaning company. So you could easily calculate the man hours and like, so when you're going to price this stuff, if it's for a bigger company, you understand that, hey, they probably need to pay these people at like $20 an hour. This is their margin. You could kind of work it that way if there's not a price for home cleaning on the home advisor sheet. Let me share my screen again just to kind of like show you this sheet, because that is also in the file section of the group. See here. Yeah. So if you were to go up here and you were go to more and then files, you'll see that there is the home advisor pricing sheet. So this will give you a base price. Give me 1 second here and I know that I was just looking at this for our own stuff the other day. Pull this up. So it's going to be there we go. All right, cool. So this is the home advisor pricing sheet. So Raphael, what you could do is just do a search for like clean maybe or something like that, where you're gonna central. Okay, so that's not what you want. And I would just kind of go through this air duct cleaning. They might not have home cleaning. I don't know if home advisor does that. There's carpet cleaning. So
Great place to look for niches too. Yeah. Karim was asking about niches. He dropped a few in the chat. I've never heard of any of them, but pool water delivery. Okay. Accessibility remodeling. I could see that coming off of a normal remodeling site, but if you had that could be okay. I don't know how much demand there would be. It might be more commercial. I don't know. Metal stair service and then crawl space repair. I
love the obscurity of the niche choices. I think that what he's hitting on there is like, he's certainly on the right track.
That's right.
Personally, I don't know a lot about those niches. I haven't been in them, but where is that, Jeff? Is that in it's in the Skype chat or Zoom chat rather. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Let me just see that. So that was Karim. See, I feel like I have some good ideas for some obscure niches, and it's not that I'm too lazy.
I was the one who dropped them. I was the one who dropped that message.
Yeah, right on, man. How you doing?
Good, not too bad. How are you?
Good. Yeah, I'm just looking. I'm looking through it. Oh, there it is. Okay, pool water delivery. So
the only reason I came up with that one was I saw like some random TikToks, and there was this guy just delivering pool water to these houses in California, and I was like, okay, that's actually pretty interesting. I didn't even know that. Apparently, it's cheaper to do that rather than filling it yourself.
Yeah, he may be able to like have it also be treated as well, because I know for someone that I've owned swimming pools, and every time we had to refill it, we had to like it was just like this whole nurturing process that had to happen with the water. that could be a good one. I would just be calling them before I go into a niche, what's the average ticket price? Like do you know how much this costs, the pool water delivery? Because I know that like filling up swimming pools in Vegas would cost me like $200 to get the water, and then maybe like $100 of dealing with like the pool guy to do extra stuff to get it set up. So I can't imagine.
I just came up with these weeks. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Devon,
well, I need to do more research on them.
Yeah. No, but I think this is a good model for the rest of you guys to look at. Is look at the obscurity of the niches that he chose. This is I love that. So
yeah.
I think crawl space repair is probably not high ticket enough. I don't know what that entails. Metal stair service. So that's like the installation of metal stairs, right?
Yeah. I don't know what the exact keyword for that is. I just kind of came up with that metal. I'd actually have to look on Ahrefs and look at the search volume and all that at least.
Yeah. I would say if there's search volume for it, that might be one that could be an expensive one. As long as you're doing installation, right? And let's share a little bit, Jeff. So we're kind of going through this right now, and I have a site. It was one of the first sites that I built, and it was like a concrete repair site. It was like one of the first things I ever did, and I just looked at the volume, and I saw that there was a lot of volume, and I thought this would be good. And the site produces a ton. Like it ranks really well, brings in a lot of leads. I don't know that we've ever had it rented before, because the people that are the contractors don't want it. They don't want repair work, right? And it's made it really, like, if I were to go and find somebody that was unlicensed, I could probably sell it to them. And then that opens up like a whole nother ball of wax, where it's like, now I'm like advertising for an unlicensed contractor, and that's illegal. And the site is like ranking really well, so my exposure is higher. But what we've talked about now is like, what are we going to do to reposition this thing? And it's always been in the back burner. We haven't really like put a ton of resources and effort towards it. And what are we going to do? So now we're like talking about, well, we talked about changing the name on the GMB. The site is tied to repair. It says like concrete repair in the domain name.
So we get a, just for a little kind of frame of reference, we get a lot of like, Karim cracked the sidewalk kind of thing or whatever. There's, really small issues that contractors want to waste their time. They're like, hey, can you come and like pour a 10 by 10? No, nobody wants to pour a 10 by 10. No, they don't.
Right. I've got 100 square feet. Can you like, that's not really what we want. What they want is a driveway. They want to install a driveway or replace a driveway, right? Or, like maybe build a retaining wall. So we need to reposition this site if it's going to be worth something, because it's just remained unrented all this time, and it probably produces 100 calls a month, right? In concrete.
Wow. And I've tried to sell it a dozen times. I probably had a dozen trial clients. I think I got $500 a month for it for like 3 months, and the guy blew out after that.
Yeah,
integrity. Let's put it that way.
You have to take this stuff as feedback. We built in the wrong niche, and we didn't position it within that niche correctly, right? So now we're going to change things, and we're going to set up GMBs for like retaining wall and driveway replacement or driveway installation, this type of stuff. We may change the name on the GMB that says concrete repair, right? So now we're going to reposition this, and the domain is aged, right? It was one of the first ones I ever built, and it's been getting traffic all this time, and it's like has all this stuff indexed, it has GMBs, and it has reviews, and like all these different things, but it's just not worth anything until it ranks for the right things. So now we've got some repair work to do on our concrete repair site, right? So that we can reposition it so that it can actually pay money towards us. And the fact that it says repair, in the domain, I don't think it's going to matter. I think what's going to matter is like if we get the GMB and we get it to rank organically for the right terms, then it's going to be found, right? And we'll try to we'll probably always get repair jobs coming through there, but the contractor's not going to be upset if it's like 3 driveways come in and then like a cracked sidewalk comes in, right? Or, maybe it's 3 of each, but as long as those big ticket items are coming in, then they're going to be fine. So just want you guys to know, if you've gone down the wrong path with some of these sites, they're not completely dead. They can be repositioned. Cool. All right. So do we have any other questions, comments, concerns?
Neil was commenting about the welders and fabricators do metal stairs, and a lot of concrete bathroom guys do the ADA accessibility. Yeah, that's true. I was thinking with the metal stairs, like not knowing anything about it, I think in a really dense urban area where you have a lot of apartments with walk-ups and security stairs for emergency escape and whatever. I mean, I'm thinking New York and San Francisco, maybe like places like that. Maybe even LA, like that could maybe do pretty well, but I don't know, maybe any city. I just don't know enough about it.
Is there a live where you guys kind of have gone over like what you take into account when you're picking like a niche to like build a website, like the city, like population, like whenever I see for a certain keyword, or if I even see a little bit, sometimes I've been told not to factor that in as much because Alcraft can be very off with that. So I get confused kind of sometimes about that.
Jeff, was he cutting out for you while he was talking?
Yeah, he was. I think I got the gist of it. Like what kind of population size, etc., would get you motivated enough to go after a niche.
Right. Was that your question, Karim?
Yeah. So sorry. Can you repeat that? My phone connected to my Bluetooth on my car, and I did not hear anything.
So was your question just like, is there a live where we go over population size?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there definitely is, and I'll just go over it again now. I'll kind of give you my 2 cents on it. First of all, like as just like a general rule of thumb, I'm not really building in a niche where there's like less than 70,000 people in the city. So like if there's less than that, I'm not really excited to go into it. Jeff, are we good? Can you see my screen here?
It's popping up now, yeah. But
you see Google?
Just Google, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So let's say I go for cities population. So this right here. Okay. So this will work. It's usually Wikipedia. I don't know that apparently they got overtaken. Let me just go back because I'm familiar with the Wikipedia one. Okay. All right. So if you find this Wikipedia article, then you'll get this list of cities and they're going to be listed by population. And what I like to do a lot of times, I'll come down here. I think there's kind of a sweet spot, especially when you're getting started between like, 150 and 400K. So all these cities, let's see where 400K starts at. So anything below, like I would say including and below Bakersfield, California, there's like 403,000 people here. And then so that is what number is that? So that's number 48. And then I'm going to go down and look at like, where is like 150. So I would include Charleston. I know Charleston's like a nice city. All right. So right around here. So from 180 until, what did I say that top one was?
Bakersfield.
450. Yeah. So there's like 140 cities there that are kind of in that sweet spot. And obviously you don't have to stick with these long term, but I think it's like when you're trying to get in there and you get started and you're trying to like get some money coming in, I think you'll find that these cities are going to be easier to rank in. Now, the areas that we get our most money from are generally a little bit bigger than these, right? So, but the competition goes up, but like you could build 10 sites and choose 10 of these cities between number 48 and 180 or whatever it was. 10 sites, you choose the right niches, you could get $10,000 a month. That is like 100% possible, right? That's how simple it can be. choose 10 of these cities with 10 niches and get the 10 sites to rank. If the average ticket price is at least $1,000 and there's enough volume for it, you're like, it's a no-brainer for the person to pay you. Like if you can, if you can produce 30 leads a month where the average ticket cost is $1,000, then you could probably get $1,000 a month for that, right? So they should be closing 10 of those. If they're closing a third, so that you send in 30, that's $10,000. You're getting 10%, that's $1,000, right? If you get, if you kind of stick between the ones that are, maybe over 300 to 450, like Kansas City, you rank a site in Kansas City, that's 500, right? So you rank a site in one of these cities that has a higher population. I mean, you can get, there's sites that we have that we're getting 400 leads a month where the average ticket price is like $4,000, right? So it wasn't harder to rank in those. Like ranking for home cleaning in like any of these cities, I think would be harder than ranking for what we did. Ours is worth so much more for it, right? So I would look at those populations, and we had the call with Shiv 2 weeks ago, and then I've gone over it. I went over it a little bit more last week, and we've covered it a number of times, is the due diligence process that we look at. I would go through and I would be looking at the Google My Business. I would put it into the heat map and find out who the top dog in town is. So look at that average. So let's just run through it real quick. And then I got one more thing to talk about. So somebody throw a niche in there that they're interested in. And Jeff, if you can relay that to me, I'll just kind of dive into this real quick.
All right, you guys throw it in.
Who's got something that I want us to look at? Let's see here. Okay, let's get this opened up here.
Anyone?
No one? Really? Is that how we're doing it, guys?
How we're doing it. Handicap accessibility, concrete foundation.
Concrete foundation. All right.
Of course, Devon with the dumpster rental. Where is that?
That's dumpster rental. That's dumpster rental, Devon.
And Karim, of course, metal stairs for Karim.
Okay. Let's just do metal stairs because I've never even
Georgia
experienced
does
that.
crime scene cleanup. That I know somebody who's in that niche, and that is a nasty business. There's special licensing and hazmat and stuff like that. It's a pretty interesting niche. Can be very lucrative from what I understand.
Okay. Let's stick with what was it? Handicap accessibility. Is that what that niche was? Okay.
Concrete foundation, handicap accessibility, dumpster rental, metal stairs.
Okay. I'll just kind of do a couple of them at the same time real quick. So one of the things I really like is this tool, Bright Local. It's not really necessary and it's completely free to use. If you go to brightlocal.com and then you see local search result checker with dashes in between the words, this will give you kind of a local search result for any area. So let's do concrete. One of the things I want to know is what the search volume is for this. So if I type in like foundation, so there's foundation repair, concrete foundation contractors. So a lot of times what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my Ahrefs account, but there, like I mentioned before, there is keywords everywhere. If you don't want to pay for Ahrefs, then check out Keywords Everywhere. Look in the guide there, and you'll see all the different. I covered it on a call. Okay, so I'm going to do concrete foundation. I'll type in that, and it will give me. So concrete foundation has 2,700 searches a month. Maybe I'm going to do. Let's see what foundation repair looks like. 32,000 searches a month. So that is quite a bit more. So I think that is an expensive ticket item.
It's very expensive. I would just say be careful about special licensing. I don't think that it's true in every state, but I think that some states do have special licensing for foundation repair.
So you may not just be able to be like a run-of-the-mill concrete contractor and then be able to do this. Is that what you're saying, Jeff?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to change this to be foundation repair, and I'm going to proceed knowing that I'm going to have to probably find some sort of specialist. So in this area, I can put in the city I'm going to look at first. So it's Charleston, South Carolina. So this will check Google. This will check the maps. I'll click on this. It's going to come back. And if I click on this page, it's going to show me what the first page would look like if I'm there. Instantly, I don't like what I see. All these people have foundation and the GMB name. This guy has 93 reviews. This guy has 220. Okay, so I'm on to the next city. I'm just like stopping right there. When I
See
see
that
that
crawl space solutions, right? Third in the map pack was crawl space. Never even heard of that niche.
space, maybe that's like related to that other one that Karim had, like
Yeah, I know.
crawl space
It's crazy.
repair. Okay, so I've got Charleston, South Carolina in there. Now I'm just gonna go into like Juliet, Illinois. I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna do the same thing. Gonna start off. How was that spelled? Is it like that? Okay. All right, so I love it when I see that there's ads here too. You can kind of see that this is this one doesn't have foundation repair in the name. So I think this is maybe a little bit lower than the previous one. If this were me, I might like dive into it a little bit more. There's also less reviews, but I really think that if I go through a lot of these cities, I'm going to find one where there's like no website or there's like barely any reviews. Some of this is just like, there's no rhyme or reason as to why one city is tougher than another. Like what led to the fact that several companies have done the work necessary. This, like anything that's in California, you just be a little bit careful because you might end up having even more regulation. Look at that, 300 reviews. This guy's 12 reviews. Let's pretend that I found the one that I'm looking for and I'm kind of moving. Well, I guess I'll try a couple more. We'll try Pomona. So I can roll out ones really quickly just by kind of looking at the map pack for a few seconds and deciding. So you can kind of see this guy's got 300. That's a construction company. We got foundation repair in the name here. Foundation repair here as well. Okay. It'd be really cool if somebody built a tool that could do this for you guys. All right. There's Bellevue, Washington. Don't have any sites in Washington. Foundation repair. You guys get the gist of this. Let's pretend that I've gone through and I found one where there's like barely any stuff going on here, right? Where maybe the guy's got like 7 reviews, maybe he doesn't have a website, maybe these other 2 guys don't have foundation repair in the name. Then I like to look at the website and I'm going to plug it in. I'm going to kind of give it a smell test too of like, what does this feel like to me? This feels like a pretty well-designed company. There's almost no content on the site. That's something I pay attention to that apparently Shiv doesn't pay a lot of attention to. One of the things that I'm also going to do every time when I want to know who the best person in the maps is. So if we look at this company, if we go back and get the name of this GMB, which was Seattle Foundation Repair, right? So if I go over here and I type in Seattle Foundation Repair, I think it's this company. Okay, so that's it, 31 reviews. Just kind of go back here, 31 reviews, Seattle Foundation Repair. So that's my company. I'm going to take this and I'm going to put this in here, and I want to run a heat map on this company every time. That's just me. Like I want to know if this is truly the best company, because we know how much local rankings can change as we move around the city, and who knows where this tool, they chose one spot on the map. So maybe that company's ranking really well, but maybe there's somebody else that is a lot better. And I didn't even know, because I just looked at this one that happened to come up first, right? So foundation repair, that's what we're looking at. Okay, so I'm going to choose 1 mile apart. I'm going to set this to be 13. And okay, so if we were looking and where were we at? Were we in Bellevue, or what was that place called? Bellevue. Okay, so this is going to center probably on where the actual GMB is. So I would find out where, oh, there's Bellevue right there. Okay, So I'm going to redraw this because this is the city I'm actually evaluating. And I myself really like it when there's a situation like this where there's a big city next to another big city, because then I'm just kind of like seeing the future of, I'm going to dominate this city and then I'm going to go after this other city, and I'm going to have one client who's going to like take over this whole, joint area here, this like twin city metropolitan area here between these two different cities. I don't know. Bellevue is obviously a subset of Seattle, but I would imagine that a lot of these companies are going to do both, especially if you're in a high ticket niche. They're going to be willing to travel over here, unless there's some weird like traffic situation, like we found out is the case apparently in Cape Cod, where you can't really go to different pirates because it's like 3 or 4 hours, even though it's only like 20 miles. So we can kind of see that this company is doing pretty well. So once this comes back, this might be the #1 company in town. And then I'm going to make sure that I do my due diligence on them when I make the decision of how difficult the niche is. I want to make sure that I'm evaluating the right company, because it could be really misleading if, like, imagine that like this tool decided that it would do the search from this spot in the upper right corner, and they're ranked #1 here, but all over the rest of the city they were all 20s. And then I go into this niche because I evaluated them thinking that they were #1, and they weren't. And then I can't figure out why it's so hard for me to rank, where like all over the rest of the city there is a bunch of much tougher people. So does that make sense? I know Karim, you asked a question and I kind of dove deep into it, but I think this was probably the better answer to your question. Does this make sense, Karim, and anyone else?
Yeah, that makes more sense. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, cool. So once I have that, I'm going to start looking at, I'm going to look at their backlinks. So, this tool right here, I mentioned this a few times in the past. This is a free tool. Let me show you. Let's bring these guys back up. We'll look at this company here. So if you have an Ahrefs account, that's great, and that can make life easier. This is the number, like this is the one that we were evaluating. This tool right here is this Majestics like backlink tool. So it's a free tool. You don't have to have a Majestics account. You do have to play their CAPTCHA game. I am the worst person ever on these things. All right. Okay, I got it. That was a record for me. So now I can go in here, I can look at this, and I can see what their trust flow and citation flow is. Those are numbers I don't like to see. 1930, like I'll find somebody that has a 0 here, right? I'll find someone that's a 0.8 or 0.30 or something like that. But this is starting to paint the picture of somebody that I don't really want to play with, right? This might be the basketball player that's like 5'9" or 5'10", but I know that there's people out there that are 5'1". So I'm going to find one of those people to play basketball against, right? So they've got some decent content on their site. This looks like a legit company to me, right? It looks like they've paid somebody. It looks like they probably have a lot of pages on their site too. I pay attention to how many pages they have on their site, because I think content really matters as far as when Google decides to rank someone. So this kind of paints the picture of I'm not super excited to do it. And what I would also be doing is, like, I would take this stuff and I would go into this research here and use this due diligence tool, and I would build out the spreadsheet for the things that are important to me. So if you guys aren't taking advantage of this, you can essentially build out whatever it is that you want. You can see a couple fields I've added here, like the heat map share link. So I could have a link in my sheet to like the ranking of them, and I could just like pop up that link of the heat map. This is the heat map average. I would probably include reviews. I would include like maybe content rating. So I can add all these things in here. And then when I go to evaluate this, so this could just be like Patric sheet, right? All right. So when I go to evaluate this and I choose to do a new niche, I could go back here and I evaluate this, and I could choose Patric sheet, and then it will have whatever questions I've added, right? So I could build this out, and at the end of this, so if we say like, what was it, like Bellevue, and it wants to know if it's a new niche or an existing. I'll choose new, and I'll make this like foundation repair. Okay, and then I'll put in my heat map average. Maybe they had an average of 3.2. Okay, so it's going to ask me now how I want to rate this. So this is kind of my subjective opinion of how tough this niche is, right? So let's say I make this, or how good of an opportunity it is. I don't think, based on what I saw, I don't think it's a great opportunity. So maybe I'll mark this as a 3. And now I've kind of got this in here. And when I want to go back and I want to like look at my niche, so maybe I'll look at, is that Bellevue? I can look at all the ones that I've evaluated in Bellevue, and that one will be there, right? And it's rated as a 3. So this tool, I don't think gets a lot of talk, but as I was saying at the beginning of the call, I think if we spent more time diving into these niches and less time like trying to sharpen our axe as far as like learning all the like top level super secret ranking strategies, like we probably don't need those if we just choose better niches, right? If like that seems like an easier, like a path with less resistance. Okay, cool. So I'm just going to revisit that heat map real quick, and let's just take a look and see what that thing looks like. 1 second here. So it's like it's still in progress, huh? I mean, that company is really dominant. So I know that I'm probably looking at the right company when I'm trying to evaluate things. Like that's the company I want to evaluate. This tool is not like, the fact that this says all ones doesn't mean that they're great. It means that they're the best in the market. So now you know to evaluate the right market. These numbers are all relative to how they're ranking compared to everyone else, right? So this lets you know that this is the company that you should be evaluating. And if you go over here and you look at these averages here, you can see that their average is a 1.21. So their average score on here is 1.21, right? So I know that this is the company that I need to evaluate. And I can just click here and pop out there and dive into this further and get to their website, right? Wherever it is, Seattle Foundation Repairs. Another clue is they've got foundation repairs in their domain name. That's another red flag for me. So these are the things that I would look at when I'm trying to decide if I want to go into a niche. But we are at almost an hour and a half. So I know some of you guys have seen that before. Hopefully you guys got some value from that. If we don't have any final questions, do we have any final questions?
I don't see anything, Patrick.
Okay, right on, guys. Okay, so like Devon pointed out, we have 4 months left in the year, right? So we've used up 75% of 2021. If your goal in 2021 was to like, hey, I'm going to build this business and do this thing, and this hasn't happened yet, then like, what are you going to do about it, right? So I really believe if you can get your 10 sites in place, $1,000 average ticket cost with high enough volume, you could easily position yourself where like 10K a month is maybe it doesn't happen by January 1st, but if you do the work now, that maybe like when foundation repair really starts to, or whatever the niche is, starts to hit in the early spring, that could easily be worth 1,000. If you're bringing in 30, 40, 50 of those, like I think foundation repair right there, that's, I'd be willing to bet that the average cost of that is well over $1,000. So you have to play with the numbers, right? So maybe it's $5,000 and 20 of those is worth a lot more. That's $100,000 in business. So maybe that's worth $8,000 to $10,000 a month. If you're, I don't know. I don't know that niche, but I'm just saying, like, as that ticket price goes up, the volume can come down, right? So just kind of be thinking about that stuff. So let's do the work that's necessary so that we can have some wins. Just like Lou celebrated. So what can we give for Lou? We do a little giveaway for Mr. Lou. I know you've been in there, you've been kind of in the trenches, grinding, working hard. I'll tell you what, Lou, if you want it, I'll give you 30 minutes of like one-on-one coaching as a little thank you and prize, and for all the hard work you did to get us to the spot. We'll jump on a call, we'll dive into your business, and we'll see what we can do to create more of those. Does it sound good?
Yeah, man, let's just use business in quotes at this point. But no, I really appreciate it, man. That's
You
awesome.
got a business now, man. You got $1,000 a month coming in.
That's right, man. I gotta go spend it.
Go spend it.
That's
Right. I'll let you know an address where you can ship stuff to. All right, guys. So use this time the next week to create your wins. I'll tell you, 2 weeks from now, we will not have a call on Wednesday. I've got obligations that I have to be at. So we'll have this call this week, next week, and then we won't have one the week after. We're going to be looking for one last thing I want to talk to you guys about. We're going to be looking for about like 10 to 15 volunteers for, we think we have our solution figured out for the Google My Business API issue. So we need like 10 to 15 volunteers. A couple of the rules that we're going to need somebody that has like a GMB for their agency. Okay. That won't be probably the long-term requirement, but like for this first beta stuff, we want someone that has a GMB that has like an agency domain, right? I think that's all that we're going to need. And we're just going to, like, I know that there's a lot of you guys out there that are anxious to get this back. We're anxious for everyone to have it back. We're going to put a form out there that you guys can sign up for and fill that out. And then we will reach out to you and kind of walk you through that process. But I think we're right on the cusp of having this thing solved, of how we're going to handle this, and really hoping to have that module back in place. I appreciate you guys being patient with this for so long. It's something we've been working on what feels like nonstop for us, but I think we're about to crack this thing. Also, what should be coming out very soon is our text messaging. So, and our kind of like, we've had the campaign builder automation system in place in our agency for a while. My hesitation with being able to put it inside lead generated is the text messaging stuff. So that's the hold up. I think we're about to have it in place though for you guys. So I'm hoping to roll that out in the next week or two. So, all right, guys, you guys have a great week. Let's create some wins and share them in the group. Let's encourage each other. Congrats, Lou. Nice work, man. I will connect with you.
Thanks,
for
brother.
joining,
Thanks,
Nick.
brother.
Shout out to Nick for joining.
Oh, right on.
Haven't seen him.
I changed the work schedule up, so I'm able to come on now.
Nice.
What did you do?
I asked for a new work schedule. I asked to be able to have different hours at work. I still have
Oh, cool.
so I got to figure it out to where I can have a bit more flexibility with work. So
Awesome.
That's cool.
Thanks a lot for doing it.
This is our last call on a Wednesday night, though. We're moving to a new. I'm just kidding, man.
thanks. Good seeing you guys.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, guys. All right. You guys have a great week.
All right. Thanks, man.
Bye.
Great stuff tonight. Thanks, Patrick. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, you're welcome. Absolutely.